The latest G20 Summit took place at a time of major shift in the global geopolitical environment. Our Kim Hyesung revisits the event in Hamburg to highlight the final agreements reached by the representatives of the world's leading economies.
World leaders wrapped up the G20 summit on Saturday local time with concessions on trade and climate change. In their final joint statement, all G20 countries vowed to keep global markets open and pledged to continue to fight protectionism, noting the importance of having reciprocal and mutually advantageous trade and investment frameworks.
At the G20 financial ministers and central bank governors meeting last March, the agreement took out the usual resist all forms of protectionism phrase, which showed a lack of consensus on free trade. So it's encouraging that the G20 communique included the part about resisting protectionism.
But for the first time, the summit communique stated the right of countries to protect their markets with legitimate trade defense instruments, wording that is widely understood as a concession to U.S. President Donald Trump, who's pushing on with his America First policy. The U.S. and other members also wrangled over climate change in light of President Trump's decision to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement last month.
What becomes clear in this declaration is the dissenting view of the United States, but I am gratified to note the other 19 members of the G20 say the Paris Agreement is irreversible.
In the communique, 19 countries noted the U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement but called for the accord to be implemented rapidly. For its part, the U.S. injected a line saying that it would work closely with other countries to help them access and use fossil fuels more cleanly and efficiently.
The U.S. decision to drop the Paris Agreement is a decision made at the federal level. U.S. state governments can still push for clean energy policies and carbon taxes. President Trump knows that. The fact that the other 19 leaders still back the Paris Agreement also shows a strong will of Chancellor Merkel, the host of the G20, to address climate change, making it a win-win for all parties.
On top of trade and climate change, the G20 leaders vowed to fight terrorism, address human trafficking, and take measures to eliminate child labor by 2025.
WTO가 이제 제대로 무역을 잘 하고 있는지.
Overall, the G20 summit was a success. In particular, it provided an opportunity for newly elected world leaders to meet face-to-face, recognize their differences, boost mutual understanding, and discuss trade, climate, and North Korea issues. But given that the G20 communique is non-binding, the important thing now is for countries and organizations to come up with specific follow-up measures.
The specifics would include concrete policy solutions for reducing spillover production, ensuring a fair international tax system, and addressing trade protectionist measures. According to Global Trade Alert, more than 2,000 such measures have been introduced since 2008.
All the G20 leaders agreed to strengthen the monitoring role of the OECD and the WTO. This comes at a time when individual countries are pushing for policies that favor their own interests, measures that could go against the global order or harm other countries. So continuously upholding a multilateral, rules-based system will be critical to preventing a major global depression like the 1930s.
With Britain's decision to leave the EU and a rise in nationalist protectionist sentiment, it's become harder for G20 leaders to speak with one voice. Despite the failure to build a greater consensus on free trade and climate change, experts say the G20 members staved off the major risk of a trade war or a major disruption to the existing liberal economic order. But as seen by tens of thousands of demonstrators in Hamburg throughout the G20 summit, world leaders will have to address the growing anxieties of people disenfranchised by globalization if it wants to truly shape an interconnected world that promotes strong, sustainable, inclusive growth. Kim Hyesung, Arirang News.